using Nigeria as a case study a lot. Now, according to UNIDO is United Nations Industrial Development Organization. That's the full meaning. You can see the statistics there. It said over 70% of what? Sorry about that. Can you hear me? All right. So it said over 70% of industrial waste generated in Nigeria is discharged directly into the environment without any treatment. And when it means industrial waste, it's not just talking about liquid waste, like solid waste, um, air pollutants, and also over 70%. So just that's a very high amount of waste. So this is not just an environmental issue. It's a chemical safety crisis, a public health threat, and it's a ticket time bomb for our economy, and it's something that needs to be addressed very succinctly. Um, Now let's see what is the scale of the devastation. These are another statistics from the Federal Ministry of Environment Nigeria 2021. It said an estimated 1.5 million cubic meters of untreated industrial waste are discharged into Nigeria's surface water. Now, this is just surface water. It's not talking of groundwater, because there are still some waste that won't get to the surface water, but it will percolate into the groundwater, that's the underground water, the water table. So just for the surface water, when you talk of surface water, you're talking of rivers, estuaries, you're talking of swamps, lagoons, and 1.5 million cubic meter. So to put it in perspective, a standard Olympic pool is about 2,500 cubic meters. So you're talking about close to 600 Olympic swimming pools that is discharged not yearly, but daily. So just imagine that amount of wastewater that is being discharged and it's affecting people's livelihood, affecting aquatic life, and other things. Now, using Nigeria as a perspective, just like I said, I'm going to be using Nigeria as a case study. In the Niger Delta region, you can see some statistics in terms of oil exploitation. 30 million plus, over 30 million barrels of oil is being spilled since 1958. I think oil was discovered in Nigeria in 1957. So since the commencement of oil exploitation, over 30 million plus barrels of oil has been spilled into the Niger Delta region. We have over, like, you can see also from this stats, 1,000 chemical incidents, spill sites still unremediated, 60 plus years of damage, ongoing environmental devastation due to pollution. And this is according to NOSRA. NOSRA is a National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, the Nigerian agency meant to monitor and check, detect oil spills. So all these statistics are very damning, and they have detrimental effects. It's just trying to show the scale of the industrial pollution around the world, but majorly in Nigeria as a focus. Now, what are the primary ways in which industrial pollution happen or industrial pollution affect our environment? There are three ways: air pollution, water contamination, and soil degradation. So the first is air pollution. So there are companies that they have emissions. Due to their activities, they release harmful contaminants and gaseous substances, volatile organic compounds into the air. For example, people that are into manufacturing, FCMG, and all those power generation, thermal plants, cement production, mining, oil refinery, quarry, and a lot of industries. And they release a lot of toxic gas as contaminants, waste products. So you have gases like SO2, that's sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxides, your VOCs, even your chlorofluorocarbons. So they are released through different chemical processes, flaring combustion systems, and they have their effects, the way they have ecological effect and environmental effects on our environment. Then we also have particulate matters. So particulate matter, they are more of like, they are like suspended solids, very minute solids and liquid droplets that sometimes you might not be able to see them with the naked eye. So you have different types. The major types are the PM10, PM2.5. So when you hear these figures, the diameter, so anyone has PM10 has a diameter of like 10 micron and that, then PM2.5, 2.5 diameter. So this PM10, because of their size, they mostly affect the nose and the throat. And this PM2.5, because they are very small, they can get into the lungs and they can get into the blood streams, and they are the most dangerous because they can cause very severe consequences. And for air pollution, what are some of the consequences? Persistent smoke, degraded air quality in urban industrial zones. We can take Port Harcourt as a case study. And remember, there was a time because of glass flaring, we were seeing a lot of suits. People were breathing in suits, seeing black substances. And so those are some of the consequences. Rising rates of asthma, bronchitis, and COPD can also affect, that's chronic organic pulmonary disease in affected communities. Then also, when there's release of these emissions, these gaseous substances, it changes the chemical situation of the weather, and it makes rain very acidic. It changes the pH, and the rain that falls becomes the pH is very acidic, and this can cause harmful situation to infrastructure. It can damage structure. Acid rain can damage structure. When I mean structure, I mean like um, buildings. It can also have agricultural effects based on it to change the salinity of the soil, affect organic matter and all that. Then even the ecosystem, the carbon cycle and all that, it can affect it. Then let's not forget greenhouse gases emission. That some of these gases, when they are emitted into the air, they affect the ozone layer. I know that the ozone layer, we have different layers in the air. We have the troposphere, stratosphere, ionosphere. So there's a particular layer, the ozonosphere, which is the ozone layer that is responsible for trying to limit the amount of rays that is coming from the sun, because the sun is bringing different rays. But the only rays we need is the ultraviolet rays, which is responsible for light and heating. So that ozone layer try to limit that. But because of human activity, we are releasing this gaseous emission into the substances over time is periodically depleting this ozone layer and is allowing those other rays to come in. And that is what is causing this greenhouse effect. You are seeing rise in sea level, the polar caps are melting, different typhoons, um, hurricanes and monsoons and different natural disasters and catastrophes are happening around the world. So this can be traced back to air pollution. Then the second one is water contamination. This is one of the most ways in which industrial pollutes the society or the environment. So one of the ways is through industrial discharge. That's untreated effluent. Effluent just means liquid waste or water waste. Now, you know, water is the main source of life. That's why it's so abundant on the earth. About 70% of the earth is water. Then that's not about accounting for groundwater, because water is source of life. Water is responsible for so many things. And even industrially, water is used as a byproduct or a source product for so many things. And eventually, as a waste product, this water needs to be discharged. It has to be a waste product. But if it's not untreated and it's just discharged into surface water or as runoff or this, it contains heavy metal, dyes, solvents, accident, oils, and organic waste, and they're just released directly into rivers, streams, and drainage systems. So, and this comes as a very big detriment. And one of the detriment is ecosystem destruction. It could destroy aquatic life. It could groundwater, and there are some communities that they don't have boreholes, so their major source of drinking water is through rivers, through surface waters. And when they are drinking that water, they are using it to bathe. You see diseases that are related to water contamination, like cholera, typhoid, even skin conditions. And if the radioactive element or radioactive chemical that enters into this water, you can have issue of mutation, tumors, carcinogenic diseases, reproduction. You see women are not able to give birth, and you see, even when they're able to give birth, you see children being born with congenital defects and the rest. So Delta, Lagoon, estuary regions, and surface water are particularly vulnerable to these devastating impacts. So the third way, we have talked about the first one was air pollution, second was water contamination, and this is soil degradation. Now for the soil, this is the less common, but it also plays a key role. So when there are some times that maybe effluents or it could even be solid waste, for example, like sanitary landfills or companies just going to dump their waste somewhere. And over time, it could percolate into the soil. Now, when it percolates in the soil, how does it affect the soil? The first thing it does is that it messes up with the salinity of the soil. It makes the soil, because most of these chemicals are acidic, it changes the pH of the soil. The soil becomes very, very acidic, and it depletes the nutrients. Another thing it does is that there are some organic matters in the soil that is very important. There are some microorganisms in the soil that are very important because they produce organic matter. I think they call it humus. They produce organic matter, and it also helps to improve the fertility of the soil. Now, these chemicals, they destroy that organic matter, and it also depletes the nutrient of the soil. Then even structurally, in terms of building, you use the texture of the soil, and it makes the soil more loose, and building on that land structurally, construction becomes a problem. So these are some of the ways in which soil degradation too can affect, air pollution can affect us in terms of soil degradation. So see some of the key soil contaminants: hydrocarbon, heavy metals. Then yeah, you can see how can it affect fertility loss, just like I've explained in terms of soil fertility. Of course, if it affects soil fertility, it's going to affect the food cycle, the food chain, the way the food chain is supplied, because there's going to be a shortage of food from the soil. That's agriculture. Then also groundwater pollution. This one is very important. Now, I mentioned before that when I was saying that oil is being discharged into surface water, there are some effluents, when I mean effluents, liquid waste that are discharged. They don't get to surface water, they percolate and they seep into the soil, and they enter into the groundwater, and they contaminate the groundwater. And it also affects the water that maybe borehole, spring, water that people source from underground. And I have a personal experience with this, because there was a project I was working on at Lekki Phase 2. I know that's a region that they don't really have good water because of the quantity of FeO2O3, that's iron oxide in their soil. So their water is always reddish. And another thing is that because the landscape there is going down, it's very close to the water table. So you don't even need to dig deep. Most of the wells there are hand dug wells. So I discovered I was employed on the project there as the environmental and social consultant on that project. So as part of my community approach and community relationship, I was going around telling that we are doing this project. Hope we are not having any impact on you guys and all that. Just trying to be friendly. And they were like, for like 3 months, they have been opening their tap, and the water is oily. It's oily, like diesel. I was like, really? So I had to enter into one of the house. He opened the tap, and I saw that I could see traces of oil in the tap. I entered the next house, the same thing. So I said that, okay, let me do investigation. Let me see what is really the problem. So it took me like 3 days before I could discover that at the back of the beach, I don't want to mention the area just to avoid some issues, but at the back of the beach, I was very close to there was a diesel pipeline that passed through there, and people were, as the norm in Nigeria, they were doing oil bunkering, and they were like taking diesel, and that diesel was entering into the soil. And it was entering, so it was entering because the water table is so shallow, it's very close. It was entering into the underground water, and people that are using borehole was affecting that community. So you see, these are some of the ways, and they depend on this water for drinking, cooking, and so many. So these are some of the ways in which water pollution, soil degradation can also affect groundwater pollution. Now, these are some stats. How does this pollution impact human communities? You can see that annually, over 11,000 deaths are attributed to industrial pollution exposure just in Nigeria. We're not talking worldwide. The same Nigeria, we have 35% child illness rates. All these are preventable. 900 billion naira economic costs. So all these are very, very, I think they are very, very avoidable if much consideration is put into them. And communities that face this or communities that are more susceptible are communities that are closer to industrial layout or industrial zones. They are the ones that are more at risk. Now we're going to be having a series of quiz because I don't really want to be talking. I want to carry everybody along. So this is the first quiz. They say a factory emits particulate matter, PM 2.5, and volatile organic compounds as VOCs. What health effects are most likely? Doesn't mean that all the health effects are not possible, but what health effects are most likely in nearby communities? So we have A, B, C, D. So I need someone from the audience to answer this. A factory emits particulate matter, PM 2.5, and VOCs. What health effects are most likely in nearby communities? Is it skin cancer and stroke, bronchitis and cardiovascular disease, tuberculosis and bone loss, ulcers and idiopathic fever? Anyone, just feel free to.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Please just tell us your name. Tell us your name first before you answer. Your name, then answer.
Okay, my name is Professor Amal. Yeah,
Right.
looking at these volatile organic compounds in that environment, it means that possibility of people, workers in that environment, to be exposed to bronchitis, which is a form of respiratory or inhalation as a result of inhalation hazard. So they be open to inhalation of some of those volatile organic compounds. So I go with bronchitis and cardiovascular disease. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. So that's. Does anybody have any contrary opinion before we move on? I'm checking the chat. I think a lot of us are saying B. They agree with sorry, I just said. So the answer is go of time. The answer is bronchitis and cardiovascular disease. So yes, it can cause other effects directly or indirectly, but the primary risk here is bronchitis and cardiovascular disease. Another quiz, the last one before we continue. Soil pollution. One of the main mechanisms by which oil spills cause soil degradation is it desertification of groundwater, soil compaction of heavy equipment, displacement of nutrient and destruction of soil microbiota, thermodynamic breakdown of clay particles? So anyone. So remember, it doesn't mean that all of that are not the answer, but the main mechanism for soil degradation. Anyone? Nobody. We have 63 people. Okay, some people are writing answer in the chat, but I just want to hear someone's voice. You understand?
Yeah. For the question,
Okay.
option C is correct.
Yeah, me?
No, option C. Displacement of nutrients and destruction of soil microbiota.
Is that your final answer?
Yes, option C is correct for me.
You don't need 50-50. All right, that's the answer.
So,
The displacement of nutrients. So the other answers are correct, even this geometry of groundwater, but soil degradation in context. So the answer is C. So let's continue our training. So there'll be other series of quizzes. It's just to catch you up to see whether we are aligned on the same wavelength. So we have talked about the 3 different types of pollution. And these pollutions, they have environmental devastation. They have immediate effects. That's acute effects. Killing aquatic life, wildlife displacement, and all that. They have medium effect, like bioaccumulation of toxins throughout food chain, accelerated deforestation, acid rain, groundwater, many things that I've mentioned before. Then they have chronic effects, as long-term effects like permanent ecosystem damage, just like what is happening in the Antarctica now, that we're having rising sea levels because of greenhouse effect. We're having the polar cap is melting and it's entering into the sea and it's increasing the sea level and it's entering into. So a lot of places like Thailand, California, all those places are having monsoons, Katrina. And so those are long-term crises that when they happen, it's not because of something that happened now. The effect has been long time coming. Now, we can't speak about pollution without talking about the historical onset of industrialization in Nigeria. So I want to take you back through history, just a small history class. So from farm to factory, Nigeria's industrial shift and environmental consequence. Now, colonial times, before the British came or when the British came, there was no centralized government. So everybody was just clan, kinship. The major activity then was farming, agriculture. Now, even during our independence, during the early 1960s, 70s, we're still a predominantly agrarian economy with 60% of our GDP being agriculture. And this was what our rural communities thrive by, and this was our main source of revenue. So we're producing things like cocoa, granite, cashew, cotton, cassava, yams, palm oil. Different regions had what they produce. So that was the main. So the pollution index there was very minimal. Now, due to the discovery of oil in 1956 at Oloibiri, Bayelsa, it now marked a significant shift. We now discovered this so-called black gold that was bringing in a lot of income, a lot of revenue. And with this revenue, with this income, came investment. Other foreign companies want to invest. They were establishing factories, they were establishing plants, trying to manufacture stuff. And indirectly, it now caused what we call rural to urban migration. A lot of people were migrating from the rural place to the urban because with this industry comes job, comes demand for labor and all that. So there was literally an economic boom. We're seeing the crude oil has to be refined. So there have to be refineries, cement manufacturing, textile mills, different industries were established in places like Lagos, Port Harcourt, Calabar. But yes, the economy was booming, but it started coming with an environmental effect. Number one, there was agricultural decline because we now started relying heavily on industry and oil. Then there was uncontrolled discharge because they have to be effluent, they have to be solid waste or pollution, air emissions from this thing. And there was not really a statutory fixed regulation or law to really put them in check or balance. They would just emit and just discharge these pollutants how they like. So that was the origin of industrial pollution in Nigeria. So that was what now marked the shift, that there was a shift from agrarian to the industrial sector as a result of discovery of oil. Now, what are the key polluting industries in Nigeria? Of course, we have the oil and gas. There have been so many major cases of oil spill. Glass gas flaring, even if there have been some laws to try and prevent that or minimize that as much as possible. Also, chemical discharges in Niger Delta region. This is not just pertinent to Nigeria. Also, other places, even Venezuela, Kuwait, other countries that are oil producing countries, they also face similar challenges. We have textile and dyeing, that's tannery, which is very, very popular in the north. There are a lot of tannery industries that are into textile, and this too is a very, very serious case. They release things like lead, chromium dyes. Plastic manufacturing, you know that plastics they are made from hydrocarbons, VOCs, that's the volatile organic compounds. So, and they emit SO2s and the rest. Cement and steel, we have different cement factories or Bajana, different places that they produce cement. And cement is one production that comes with a lot of waste products. It utilizes a lot of chemical, it utilizes gypsum, it utilizes limestone, it utilizes iron oxide as a reducing agent, and all this will still come out as waste, and they contribute to respiratory illnesses. Now, what is the environmental impact of this industrial shift? It's still the same thing we mentioned before. So this is the start I mentioned before, 13 million barrels of oil since the advent of oil pollution. So the environmental impact is still the water pollution, the air pollution, soil contamination, and largely the public health crisis. All right. So one of the major things that is causing this is lack of environmental controls in place, which we are going to talk more when we enter into chemical safety aspects. Number one is that 70% of untreated waste, just like I mentioned before, they are just discharged like that. No regulatory oversight and all that. The 5% non-compliant of SMEs without proper environmental permits, maybe they don't have their ESIAs or EMPs and ECPs and the rest of that. Oil spillage, barrels of oil spilled in Niger Delta since industrial area. And also weak enforcement of environmental laws. Our regulatory agencies need to be more stern. They need to be more hard on industries and organizations. So quiz time is another quiz. Which of the following pollutants is most commonly associated with textile and dyeing industries in Nigeria, which is in the northern aspect? Which of the following pollutants is most commonly associated with textile and dyeing industry? As dyeing in a hide, converting hide, skin, animal skin to leather. So we have sulfur dioxide, chromium compounds, chlorinated biphenyls, ammonia gas. So I'm seeing some answers in the chat, I think. I need someone, anybody should just be bold enough to tell me the answer.
Sulfur dioxide, right?
Your name, please.
Okay, my name is Moshood Abide. So I think the answer is sulfur dioxide.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, that's my final answer.
Are you sure?
I'm very sure. Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, no problem. Another person, anybody else?
Yeah, good afternoon.
Your name, please.
Shegun Gadimo. Shegun Gadimo.
Okay, go ahead.
Sulfur oxide.
Okay, you agree with the same thing as the former
Yeah,
person?
same thing, yes.
Okay, any other person?
Yes. Option B.
Option B, what's it? Chromium compound.
Chromium compound.
Your name, you not tell us your name.
Oh, my name is Mr. Franklin.
Okay, Mr. Franklin.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So I want one more person before we quickly move ahead. One more person. We have 60 people. Like, there are so many people here. Okay, let me check the chats. A lot of people are saying, what are we seeing in the chat? We're saying C, A, B, B. Okay. Okay, because of time, if nobody else wants to speak, the answer is chromium compounds. Chromium and iodine is the major chemical that is used in, especially chromium, because chromium is used to like there's a word they call it. They call it keying, I think caning or something, to cane leather or something. So the answer is B. But thank you for everyone that answered. I really appreciate your I think there are people in the waiting room. Please attend to them. All right, so let's now go. What we have discussed about this industrial pollution. Let's see what's the main consequence, what's the effect that had on us as a country or worldwide. So the first one is that's public health consequences. Number one, respiratory disease. So we talk about COPDs, we talk about asthma, bronchitis, lung cancer. So and I remember I mentioned the case study of Port Harcourt when there was suits and people were breathing black soot or black tar as a result of the flaring and activities that the refineries were doing. Then waterborne diseases, just like I mentioned where I worked, that groundwater, all those kind of things can lead to water-related diseases like cholera, typhoid, dysentery, and some diarrhea, even diarrhea, and some other diseases. Then, if radioactive elements are being dispersed, which a lot of companies, could be a thermal plant, could be, all those companies that utilize heavy metals like uranium, mercury, cadmium, titanium, polonium, they might just discharge it. And over time, because it's radioactive, there will be mutations can affect cells and infertility, tumors, cancerous diseases. And one thing about, because it's genetic, it doesn't just stop there. You can give birth to a child, Like, for example, in Japan, because of the bomb that was exploded during the 1945, during the Nagasaki and Hiroshima, some people in this generation are still feeling the effects due to like reproduction of something that happened over 60 years ago. So these are some of the long-term effects some of these pollutions can have. So even this is public health, this is environmental consequences, ecosystem destruction, aquatic life, the carbon cycle. There are so many cycles that keep this earth in balance. We have nitrogen cycle, we have carbon cycle, we have the water cycle, we have the food chain, and all this pollution, they mess up with all this cycle. And when there's a mess up with all this cycle, that's strategic impact. So just imagine 1.8 million cubic meters of industrial waste daily, every day. If you go to some place like maybe that around that Third Mainland Bridge, all those from that Yanuru, you see some waters. I think that was why Lagos State recently even banned takeaway of that styrofoam or something. You see some water that you can't see the bottom, is just literally black because of the amount of waste that have been um, um, put or amassed into that place. So these are the way of affecting aquatic life, not just aquatic, even on soil, the organic matter, which is responsible for one of the contributory factors to soil fertility. Then socio-economic consequences, obviously it will have economic devastation. If it's affecting soil degradation, there won't be agricultural output in terms of production to affect how it will affect the economy. Also, in terms of fishing, it also affects people who want to move away. If there's a place that is very polluted, there have been cases of places that are very polluted and people are moving away from that place, migrating to other places. It will reduce the value of commodities and the value of rent and stuff in that place. Social disruptions. This has happened so many times. For example, in Ogoni, Bayelsa, so many people have to leave that place. people were displaced from their land as a result of pollution. Even in Russia, the one that happened in Chechnya when a radioactive nuclear plant exploded or something, and a lot of people died. People had to migrate from that place. So people, if there's a place that is setting pollution, people will have to migrate and disperse away from that place, and that's social disruption. Some people, some communities, out of retaliation, they have been clamoring. They have been saying, our land is being polluted, and the government is not doing anything about it, or the organization is not doing about it. They might take to violence. For example, just like the Niger Delta militants that you are seeing, they start oil bunkering and they start falling militias and start causing violence. So these are also social consequences. Cultural practices and traditional knowledge may disappear because of pollution, trauma. So a lot of social economic consequences. Now, this takes us now to chemical safety, because the topic was combating industrial pollution using chemical safety as a tool. So we have talked a lot about industrial pollution, the sources, the historical onset, the types. Now, how can we use chemical safety to address it? Now, basically, chemical safety is just a way of managing chemicals, be it in a facility, organization, industry, anywhere, as far you are using chemicals, producing chemicals, handling chemicals, or disposing chemicals. You need to inculcate chemical safety. So it's a way of systematically managing those chemicals to prevent harm to human health and environment. So it encompasses multiple protective measures and vigilance at different stage. So what are the common chemical hazards that can happen? Toxicity. I know that there are 3 ways chemicals can enter the body. You have injection, that's ING, that's through the mouth. You have inhalation through there are 4 ways, basically 4 ways. Inhalation through the nose. You have injection, you can inject it through the skin, and you have absorption through the skin when it just enters the skin. So flammability, many chemicals are volatile and they can also catch fire. Corrosivity, some are very acidic and very corrosive. Reactivity, some when they come in contact with other chemicals or other substances, they react. So these are some of the others. So that's why chemicals need to be handled properly. So what are the core principles of chemical safety? So we have 60 other principles, but these are the 6 core principles. One is inventory control. You're having chemicals in your facility. You need to know the number of chemicals you have, the type of chemicals you have, the quantities, the location, the expiration date. And this is where your SDS here comes in place. There are so many companies that they utilize chemicals without having a safety data sheet that shows all this information, all this data. Proper labeling. I've been to some sites, I've been to some places. You see people working with chemicals. You see large storage tanks that are having acetone or having different acid, and it's not labeled. And anyone can just think maybe there's water there or just this or normal. So proper labeling. And that's the essence of GHS. We're going to come back to that later. Then training, they have to be training. In Chevron here, we offer different trainings on chemical safety, chemical handling, So they have to be regular refresher training, conducting regular training section on proper handling procedures. And in case of a chemical emergency, how to handle that. Then spill prevention and proper disposal. This is very, very important. Deploy secondary containment system. Do you need to do a bond wall? Do you need to do an organic filtration system? And how do you dispose this oil? If you are releasing effluent, do you have an ETP? That's an effluent treatment plant. So we're going to talk about that later. Storage compatibility. How you store your chemicals also matter. There are some chemicals. We talk about chemicals reacting. Yes. There are some chemicals that you don't store together because they can react with each other. Then I've talked about SD. So these are core principles. Because sometimes something doesn't have to be large scale. It might be these small practices you are seeing now that will prevent something very bogus or something large from happening. It will just be as a result of something someone did not do. Maybe there was no proper disposal. that made a very large catastrophic event to happen. Somebody hand is raised. Sorry, who is that? You can go ahead.
Yeah, it's me. It's me. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
My name is David Austin.
All right.
Yes, please. I want to ask a question based on these core principles of chemical safety. This MSDS is
SDS.
okay? This SDS, yes. Now, is all this inventory training speed is it not embedded into this SDS, or is it is a separate?
No,
on
no.
its own?
What SDS does is that SDS is more like a manual, or it's like a sheet. So what it does, for example, if you are bringing any chemical, that safety data sheet is going to be produced by the company that produces that or that manufactures that chemical, and it shows some certain information. Number one, it shows the origin of the chemical, what does the chemical contain, the components of the chemical, how to store the chemical, how to dispose the chemical. In case of contact of that chemical with the skin, with the eye, what you should do. So it's just like that from the word safety data sheet. It's just like a sheet that shows you all the safety parameters around that chemical. So it doesn't account for training. Training is a separate thing. Training, you are training them on how to handle, how to dispose, how to store. It's separate, but you should, if you are training them, there should be some, the SDS should be incorporated into, like, when you are training, you should train them that any chemical they are handling, any chemical they are working with, they should go through the SDS of that particular chemical. But this SDS does not cover for. Then inventory control is different. Inventory control is just as an organization, as a company, you are taking account that that these are the chemicals that you have. This one is being stored here. This is the one that is used. There should be a first come, first call. What it means is that the chemicals that are nearer should be used first before the ones that are like back, or the one depending on how you arrange your chemicals. So those are different. SDS is different from every other. Everything you are seeing here now, they have their different function, but they should be used in collaboration with each other. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other question before we proceed? All right. So the environmental impact of chemical safety, we have talked about this. I won't waste much time on this. So if you implement this chemical safety properly, what are the things you can avoid? You can prevent releases, accidental release into the air, water, soil, ecosystem. Can reduce hazardous waste generation through proper planning. Can avoid cross-contamination between hazardous and non-hazardous material. It encourages substitution with safer alternative and green chemistry. So green chemistry is another aspect of safety, but it's different from chemical safety. Because chemical safety, you are trying to address pollution. Green chemistry, you are trying to address the pollution from the source. So I think that's another, maybe we'll do another webinar on green chemistry. But green chemistry is more, for example, you don't want any waste to be generated. So you want to use, if you are using a product, there will not be no waste. So you will use up all the reactants, you use up everything. Don't be waste. So there are different practices. So that's another entire topic, but a very sweet topic that maybe in the future our EMS department might do a webinar on that. Ensure compliance with environmental regulations, including NESRA, ILO, C170, GHS. Is there a question? Is anybody asking a question? Okay, what's the question?
Yes, my name is Stanley Fadaway.
All right, go ahead.
Do we still have MSDS in vogue?
When you mean invoke, like I need you to be more clearer.
That is, I thought SDS is more version of MSDS, and is the global standard. That is a format of chemical safety.
No, normally, formerly, it used to be known as MSDS, but now it's not SDS. It's not more MSDS again.
Yes, that is okay. That is what I'm requiring. Thank you.
That was why I said SDS. When you said MSDS, I said SDS, because before it was material safety data sheets, but now it's just safety data sheet because they don't want to limit it to just materials.
Thanks.
But thanks for the observation. Thanks. All right. So the hidden source of industrial pollution, just like I said, most industrial pollution, they won't begin with one catastrophic event. You see a thermal plant explode or there's a leakage or something. It doesn't start with, there's something minute. There's a stage-by-stage process. There's an ignorance or something someone ought to do or something that was meant to be in place that was very minute or small or routine or a lapse that led to that big catastrophic event. And that's where chemical safety, it could be a leak that has been happening and they've been ignoring. It could be mishandled chemicals due to poor labeling, accidental mixing, improper disposal. It could be lack of regulatory oversight if the regulatory bodies are not hard and they are not really inspecting and auditing. Could be cost cutting by senior management. They don't really want to spare money. They don't want to do an effluent treatment plant. They don't want to manage their waste and all that. And that's deliberate. So these are hidden sources of industrial pollution. So how can poor chemical safety become pollution? Just like things we have mentioned, improper storage, no labeling, leaks, inadequate containment. There are some gas stations I work with, some sites I work with, and you go there, you see diesel tanks of 2,000 liters, and there's no bond wall. There's no bond wall like design around it. And I ask myself that, what if there's overflow or there's a leakage? How did they now contain this oil? And it's very common, especially in this part of you see a lot of inadequate containment, poor disposal, poor waste segregation, poor waste management. So all these can also lead to industrial pollution. So the solution, accurate inventory control, proper labeling and segregation, secondary containment systems, and just the solution to everything I've mentioned prior. So when we put these things in place, this chemical safety, what are the benefits? Statistically, approximately, you can see 76% pollution reduction. Facilities that comply with chemical safety programs they notice a 76% reduction in pollution. So there's something we call carbon credits. Especially in Europe, it's very common. Carbon credit, it measures your carbon emission, how you emitting carbons. So sometimes, if there are even some companies, they want to go and take loan. Maybe you want to take loan from World Bank or from IMF. So ask what's your carbon credits, because they don't want to support any company that is not environmentally responsible. Then it also improves compliance with regulatory compliance. It saves you costs, because it saves you costs on remediation, cleanup, and when you're having incidents or you need to pay compensations and insurance and the rest, 65%. So what's the clear connection? The truth is that wherever chemical safety is implemented, there will be a strong environmental and safety culture and reduced pollution. But wherever it's weak, pollution is strong. So chemical safety has to be prioritized from the factory floor and to the cargo bay, to the pipelines, to the executive boardroom. Pollution is minimized. So it doesn't just save life, they save ecosystems, river, farmlands, community, societies, future. So as an organization, I know some people are here, you're a team lead, you're a manager, you're a director. So these are some of the things you need to go back. Probably you have been doing, you just need to improve, or you just need to introduce. Assess your current chemical management practices. If you're a company that utilizes chemical or handles or disposes chemical, implement proper labeling, storage system, train up personnel, spill prevention, response, put necessary control measures in place. When inspection is inspecting, are the valves okay? The emergency shut off valve, our waste segregated? How do you dispose of waste? How do you try to reduce emissions as much as possible? All those things you should be part of. So that's why every organization should have what we call an EMP. That's an environmental management plan. So the plan that's it's like a manual, a Bible that shows how you want to manage your environment, manage your emissions, and make sure that your output of whatever activity you are doing is not affecting the environment. Now, chemical safety implementation, strategies and tools for pollution prevention. This chemical safety have some certain tools. There are plenty, but because we want to, you can be here till tomorrow, but I just decided to pick out the very pertinent ones. So, these tools is trying to move us from awareness to action. So it's not just about, you can come to this webinar today or come to this training, you can watch YouTube videos, but it's about taking action. How do we implement this? How do we make it a daily activity in our organizations? And one of the things to help us is to prevent incidents from occurring, protect workers, ensure regulatory compliance, build sustainable operations. So the first one, just like we mentioned, is chemical inventory control. Every chemical should be accounted for. They should be well labeled. There should be an SDS. Apart from the SDS, you should have a chemical register that has the name, the quantities, the expiry date, the hazard classification using the GHS system. GHS system is a global education system that was developed by the UN. Implement first in, first out stock rotation, just like I mentioned before. Monitor stock levels to prevent overordering, conduct regular audits. So this is about taking inventory of the chemicals. Then SOPs are usually policies and procedures. You should have procedure of everything. Even my company, Kevron, we don't really handle chemical, maybe aside from JIC and cleaning agent, but we still have a procedure for chemical handling. So talk more of an organization or company that is dealing in chemical, that is producing chemical or using chemical as the byproduct. So you need to have a different guidance document for chemical handling processes, disposal, storage, and it should be part of your training, both for current staff, new staff. There should be refresher training. It should be visible. It can be pasted, or from time to time they can be sent to staff for them to, especially for those that are going to be in contact or working with the chemical. It should be reviewed regularly because over time there might be some new introduction of chemicals or new introduction of processes, equipment, or systems. So there should be like a review date, and it should be reviewed and updated if applicable. Then training too is very important. So this workforce training we have talked about is that training is very important. Part of your training is you are teaching about handling, storage, disposal, the hazards, emergency response, PPEs to use. There are some places you want to handle, because you might not need to wear the normal overall coats. There are some chemical, so all these are part of chemical safety. So, they are more like, PPE is like the last resort now when every other controls are failed. So all this should be incorporated into every part of the training. Chemical labeling and signage is very, very important. So hazard pictograms, container labels, signages. So if you have your chemical storage rooms, it should be, or a chemical plant, or any place that chemicals are being stored or they are being used to produce something, there should be a lot of signages that, prohibition signages, cautionary signages should be there to try and incentivize people to know where to go, what to do, and how to act around those locations. Then spill management, this is also very important because a lot of land pollution and water pollution are always centered around spill, even the oil and gas and so many other industries, even the tannery industry in the northern Nigeria where they produce leather and they also dispose the effluents into the rivers. Why? Because there's no spill management, there's no disposal management, there's no effluent treatment plants. So, and they degrade the soil, they degrade the water. So the first form of control is having your bond, your drip trays, your seed floor. Then when you want to dispose, because it's in large quantity, obviously you have to dispose. You now need to treat it. You need to treat it. That's why you need to use an ETP. So aside that, clearly label emergency shut-off valve and drains, regular leak detection system, if possible, automatic leak detection systems that has a sensor and shows if there's any leak. Pressure monitoring to see if there's any pressure irregularity or abnormality or anomaly. Corrosion protection, routine maintenance of pipelines, tanks, valve, hydraulic system, emergency shut-off valve, then training, just like I've mentioned. So all staff must know the immediate steps to take in the event of a chemical spill to minimize environmental impact. So now I've been mentioning ETP. If you are going to be discharging a very large amount of wastewater or effluent, liquid waste, obviously you cannot just store it in a tank or something. You will need to dispose it into surface water. But you will need to do what you call an ETP. You need to be environmentally responsible and do what you call an ETP, an effluent treatment plan. So what this effluent treatment plan does is that it tries to remove physical, biological, and chemical contaminant as much as possible and try and return that wastewater close to the original state of that surface water, like close to normal water, what it is, so that it will try and reduce or totally remove all pollutants from that water. And this is where regulatory agency comes in place, because there's what they call ETP permits that is supposed to be given by regulatory agencies. I don't know who has jurisdiction over that. I don't know if it's NESRA or if it's Federal Ministry of Environment, but I know there's someone that has jurisdiction over giving ETP permit and licenses. So they have to be, aside the regular inspection and audits, third-party environmental audits, ECMs, environmental control monitoring, you need to do an ETP. And that ETP has different design because it's designed based on the effluent. So the ETP that will be done in a brewery will be different from the ETP that will be done in a textile industry, or different from the ETP that is done in another. Depends, but it depends on whatever you're. That's why you say here that ETP must be designed based on specific characteristics of the company's effluent. And before they are discharged, they should be tested. Effluents must be tested. Effluent must be tested before discharge to ensure it meets national environmental standard, e.g. NESTRA or FN limits. So they have limits. They have like chemicals, like what's the minimum limit? That is 0.05 milligrams PPI. So monitor parameters such as pH, biological oxygen demand, CODs, total suspended solid, total dissolved solid, oil and grease, and heavy metals. Obtain a permit to discharge effluent from NESRA or State Environmental Agency. So for this effluent treatment system, naturally or generally, there are 3 stages. We have the primary treatment, secondary treatment, and the tertiary treatment. So for the primary treatment, what it does is that it has like a metal screen. What it's removing is removing big solids, maybe like rag, plastic, clothes. It's just removing those solids. Then when it removes the solid, it sends it to a filtration tank. It filters. Then it sends it to a sedimentation tank. So that sedimentation tank, what happens is that heavier solids that were not removed by that metal screen, they go up. No, sorry, they sink down. Sorry. They are more dense. The heavier solids sink down. Then oil, if there's any oil, this oil goes to the top. Oil is being scooped from the effluent. So then the heavier solids are down. Then the water is now passed to another tank for secondary treatment. So secondary treatment, what this one addresses is biological contaminants. So there might be some algae, spirogyra. So there are some very important bacteria that will now be introduced these bacteria, they now feed on these biological contaminants. They feed on them and they are able to. So at this primary treatment, about, I think at this place, about 30 to 50% of total solids, total suspended solids are removed in primary treatment. And about 30% of organic matter, like biological, and then from here, about 80 to 85% of further biologic matters are now removed from this secondary treatment. Then it now goes down to the tertiary treatment. So the work of the tertiary treatment is to try and remove physical, biological, and chemical matters that were not able to be removed by primary treatment and secondary treatment. So this is a more advanced and more expensive process. You start seeing things like UV disinfection, that's the mix of UV radiation, ozonation, chlorination, that's using chlorine, chemical precipitation. So there are more advanced process. So, but the main target of this one is now to kill the chemicals inside, then the remaining biological contaminants that are not there to kill it. So by the time it passes through this process, the water that now comes out is almost close to a normal water and is tested as to see if it complies with what we said here. Sorry. Okay. To see that effluent at this stage, after this tertiary treatment, effluent must be tested before discharge. When NESRA now gives that permit that yes, you are free to discharge, NESRA or Ministry of Environment or any whatever regulatory body, you are free to discharge this treated wastewater, then they can now discharge it into surface water. So it will cause minimal or no harm compared to if that initial wastewater was discharged. So this is another very important, everything I've said here now is another very important aspect of chemical safety. But because of the cost, the finance, how many companies are willing to invest in this ETP? It's very cheaper for them to just go by the back and just discharge into surface water without any reprimand or anything. So here's another quiz. An ETP treats wastewater using primary, secondary, and tertiary stages. If high levels of biochemical oxygen demand remain after secondary treatment, what is the best next step? Anyone?
Sorry, can you come back with the question, please?
Said an ETP, that's an effluent treatment plant, treats wastewater using primary, secondary, and tertiary stages. If high levels of biochemical oxygen demand remain after secondary treatment, what is the best next step?
Hello? Okay. My own option C.
Option C. What's your name?
Yes. Franklin.
Your name.
Franklin.
Okay, let me check the chat.
Yeah, I think it's C. I
Okay.
think C too. Yes, because if it has to do with A will deal with impurities. D might not really apply because you're talking about temperature and of course you're not boiling. UV will deal with bacteria and whatever. So the best option there is C.
Okay. Any other contrary answer or opinion?
I think hello?
Hello, your name, please. Your name when you want to answer.
Ibe.
Okay, go ahead.
I would go for C, but however, I want to say something. After the tertiary process, which is the last stage of the treatment, and that's treatment, what we do, with my own experience, is we use chemical chlorination.
Okay, where do you work? First, sorry, I'm cutting you. Where do you work first?
I worked with Golden Oil.
And you guys have an ETP?
Yes, a very expensive one. So what we do is after the first two stages, the last stage is that chlorination stage where we use chlorine to treat. before we now test for pushing out. So
Wait, but sorry to cut you off. The chlorine is during the tertiary stage.
yes, but yes, we see that's also part of our last result. So
I mentioned, when I was talking about the tertiary stage, I mentioned ozonation, chlorination, like
yes.
all those. It depends on the type of effluent. There are so many things you can do in that.
So our design is meant for the chlorination stage. That's our design. That's before we test for odor and do other physical inspection, other smell and the rest before we push out. Then with this process we do before we now get license. But I'll go for C. I'll go for C on this.
Okay. So thank you. You want to remind me of something. Part of that test they'll do before they release the water, aside testing for whether there's metals or there are still some microbes, they'll still test for some physical things like odor
parameter
and some,
TSS,
so the answer is C. So everyone
TSS and TDS.
Yes. So thank you so much. Thank you. Like we have so many environmentalists here. So thank you. So the answer is C. So emergency preparedness and response. I know this is reactive. This is after the wahala don't burst, but it's also very important because in as much as possible you try to put controls in place. There are sometimes that things can go wrong. So there have to be appropriate measure in place. Number one, you have to have part of your SOPs. You should have an emergency response procedure and plan, alert system, alarm system, evacuation. There should be coordination with external agencies. Like, okay, someone asked a question. Please, what, Mr. Shegun, I don't understand your question. What is a primary?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Good afternoon. Okay, in the last questions, option A said increase. One of the options there says increase primary clarifier. I didn't quite get it. The last question, in the primary clarifier, can someone please explain that for me, please?
That primary clarifier is the same thing as primary treatment. It's just another word that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
All right. So there have to be external coordination with the local fire, medical, environmental agencies. You understand? Collaboration, working hand in hand with. We are in Lagos State. You have LASEFA, Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency. We are in Ogun State. You have what do you call it? OGEPA or forgetting the connection. Incident management, first aid, documentation. You have medical drills. There are some companies that do environmental drills, like if there's an environmental catastrophe. So all those should be incorporated into your emergency preparedness and response plan. So putting it all together, just to summarize, what should you do? Have strong inventory controls and SOP. Training, build workforce capacity through training. Implement technical controls for prevention and response. Continually improve through regular assessments. Internal audits. Don't wait for regulatory agencies to come and audit you. Do your own internal audit to see gap analysis, to see where are the gaps or where are places that needs to be improved or corrected. Now let's look at case studies, because we cannot talk about industrial pollution without historically looking at case studies of things that have happened in the past. So for these case studies, I decided to choose 3. I'm taking 2 Nigerian, 1 international or global. So the first one is Ogoni Land. I know many of us are familiar with Ogoni. Ogoni is a place in I think Bayelsa, and they have over time they have had this very long.
State.
Okay, sorry, Rivers.
River State. That's where I am.
Okay, Ogoni is in Rivers.
Yes.
Okay. So apologies for that. Rivers. Okay, yeah. But I know since when I was small, since when I was very little, I've been here in Ogoni, and I know that there's an ongoing dispute with them. I think we Shell BBC.
Yes, we Shell, yes.
The oil spill there has been very terrible. And these are some of the stats to back it up. It said just between 1976 to 1991, there have been 2,976 plus OSP incidents. The benzene levels in their drinking water has increased 900 plus times plus. They said $1 billion, and it will take like estimated 30 years for remediation. So let's watch this video. I want to play the video. Just anyone can just confirm if they can hear the video. Is the video playing?
It's playing, but no volume.
Sound?
No audio.
No
Okay, wait,
audio.
Okay. Okay. I'll play it again now. Let me know if it's playing.
Rooney, it is playing without sound, please.
Just hold on. Okay, you know what? Let me stop sharing, then I reshare. Is it not supposed to play from this stuff? Okay. Sorry, just give me a minute. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Is it playing?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
playing. It has sound now.
Our lives in Bodo depended largely on the sea. We depended largely on the sea and sea foods. Today, almost all of those seafoods have gone. We can't find them again because of the oil spill. And this has led to a level of poverty I will yes not find the word to describe.
Look at the whole place. Even our schools is in a very dilapidated form. And we expect that the cleanup will carry out some emergency measures and also an empowerment of the people that have been rendered jobless through these OSPs.
How many people do we bury last week? And how many will we bury this week? We are dying. Because these things are no more there. Poverty in terms of food, in terms of cash, even the necessities of life. No water here.
Right, thank you. So that was just a short video. Please confirm you can hear me. So that was just a short video just to show us not what is happening, what has been happening and still happening and see. So I want two people from the audience to just give us an overview of what they could understood from the video and what they feel is the way forward to address it. Anyone, at least one or two persons.
Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, my name is Jumbo. So I think from the video, though it wasn't it was shaky kind of, but I understand that the people were trying to air their frustration and their concerns. First of all, the spill has brought untoward hardship. It has destroyed their means of livelihood. It has also affected, which is the environment, particularly since they are predominantly fishermen. So it has affected their means of livelihood. It has also affected groundwater, and most likely it would have seeped into the aquifer and contaminated the aquifer. So they can't have a good potable drinking water as well. And generally, life is difficult for the people. So what can actually be done is to put systems in place, robust systems in place to prevent spills. And then, of course, carry the people along, talking about the community people, because when they have a sense of ownership, they will be the one to protect this facility. Is the government alone or companies alone cannot protect these facilities because the pipelines runs thousands of kilometers across the Niger Delta. But when the people are being carried along, which is part of what the PIB, that's the petroleum industry,
community engagement.
Exactly, community engagement. So when they have a sense of ownership, they will be the one to protect this asset because it's also benefiting them. So I think that should be the way forward. And then to prevent further spills, companies, organizations should ensure periodic maintenance of their facilities. Some of these pipes have aged. Some of them have been underground for over 30 years. And there should be a system to monitor and then change the ones that are looking bad and ensure that the system continues to remain efficient. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, what's your name again?
My name is Victor Jumbo.
Okay, Victor Jumbo, thank you. That was well detailed and I think we should be sitting on my seat. So thank you.
Thank you.
So before we proceed, do you have any other person that just want to chip in or just want to corroborate what Mr. Jumbo said?
Okay, so Isaac Hayford, speaking from Ghana.
All right.
A little to top up what Mr. Jumbo said, I think the regulatory bodies should also sit up to ensure that whatever system that they have in place already is effectively implemented. I think with serious following up, audits and other stuff to ensure that every gap has been identified, and then whatever recommendations that could be given has been given to ensure the effective management of the spill that the neighborhood are suffering from is dealt with. So thank you. This is what I have.
All right. Thank you so much. We have all spoken well. So many things to gain from that video. Essentially, the government needs to be more responsible organizations. They need to carry the people along. They need to benefit because it's their land, it's their resources, so they need to be beneficial, and it should not, their resources should not be a cost to them, it should be a blessing to them. So another case study in Nigeria is in Kano State, a place called Chalawa, like an industrial layout where there is a tannery. Just like I said before, tannery is like a process of converting animal skin, to be cow, sheep, goats, that's hide into leather. And we have a lot of that in the northern parts, especially that this region. and they use a lot of chemicals. Hello, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you. I wanted to talk about sewage.
Okay.
So I don't know if you know about any place where companies can dispose their sewage, like government approved areas in Jigawa, Kano State.
At the moment, on the spot, I won't be able to give you an answer, but we have an environmental department in Kebron, so I can reach out to them and we'll be able to give you that information. Just leave your number on the chat. Somebody will pick it up. Maybe later we can reach out to you, give you that information.
Okay, all right, sir. I'll drop the number on the group, on the message box.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So factors can the mix of chromium, iodine, and so many chemical compounds, dyes, sulfides, and the waste products. At the end of the day, this water is indiscriminately, and here's the word you quote, indiscriminately discharged into the Chalawa River, reducing pH as low as 2.8, like very extremely acidic. Okay, before I continue, okay, Mr. Folabi, I've been seeing a comment that statistically related. What are the sources? So if you can check on my slide, you see I've quoting agencies like NOSDRA, that's National Oil Spill Development Regulatory Agency. I've quoted WHO, quoted UN, and some other agency. So most of these stats are not just made up stats. They are stats that are backed up from organizations and regulatory agencies. Just to answer the question from Mr. Kwemi Afolabi, that's what are the sources of these stats? So as I was saying, so they will use the pH as low as 2.8, extremely acidic, and they have impact because that place is like a rural, even though it's an industrial area, but the community is rural, so they don't have bowls, so they rely majorly on surface waters, rivers. For Mr. Nana, your answer, please go ahead.
All right. Good afternoon to us all. I'm Nana from Ghana. And mine is a question. I believe you can hear me.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right. I stand to be corrected, but I believe that there are laid down procedures, control measures, or policies to combat these spills. Okay. Looking at the environment now, has there been an improvement or the situation is retrogressing? That is my question. Thank you.
Okay, like has there been an improvement or is there retrogression?
Come again.
Okay, like you're asking in the current state of affairs, like has there been an improvement in terms of the way things are?
Yes, because I believe that there are laid down procedures, control measures, laws, and all that, all in the name of combating these spills and improving the state of our environment. So I want to ask if these policies or control measures has contributed positively to our environment, or it is still going bad. Thank you.
Okay. From my own perspective and the way I see it, the honest answer I'll give to you is that there have been actually improvements, but it's still a long way from where we ought to be. So it just shows you how bad it was. I think the agencies have gotten better, and I think multinationals have come into the company and they are trying to do as much as possible for what's right. Like recently, there was this ROCA agreement that Nigeria signed. Like, people are going green. People are trying to it's actually improving compared to what it was before. But it doesn't mean that there's no still pollution, because most of the things that will be used to curb all this pollution comes with a cost. So yes, multinationals might be able to spend that, but what of the small scale industry or the small scale factory? You go to places like Kaduna, Jigawa, there are a lot of you see a lot of hamlets or factories that are producing, and they are just literally putting their waste. So those are the places that needs to be addressed. So if you go to multinationals, you go to a place like Guinness, you go to a place like when I mean multinationals now, you know that they are trying as much as possible to do, because they want to have a good reputation, a good name. But you are having some locally sourced, you understand? You even go to the Niger Delta, you see some people that are illegally refining crude oil, and they are still putting spills, causing oil spills into. So that's where a lot of work. So there's improvement, but you have not gotten to where we ought to be. A lot of work still needs to be done. So, for those aspects that I mentioned, that's where regulatory agencies, law enforcement has to be really involved. Then for organizations too, they also need to try and also continuous improvement. So I can't tell you that, I won't tell you that there's wholeheartedly an improvement, but I feel considering where we were years ago, I think we have made some improvements, but we are still far from where we ought to be. If you are talking about this part of the country, compared to places, you go to some places that's like Sweden, Norway, and you see that they are doing very, very fine in the terms of combating this. So, thank you. Mr. Nana, yeah.
All right, thank you. But I also want to ask, you said if you go to places like Norway and Sweden, kindly asking, have you been there before? On a lighter note.
I've not been there, but I don't need to be there. I've read materials and sources and research. So
yeah, I understand. I got you. Thank you very much.
Nana, you know the world is a global village, as they say.
Ogbeni Audu, yes, I hear you, sir.
All right, thank you. So this is Chalawa. Let me not talk too much on this. Mr. Afolabi, your hands are raised. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you for the ongoing presentation. It's agreed that we are not where we used to be, but a whole lot is still missing. The gaps are still very, very wide. Not because we don't have laws, but we have weak implementation. Because I see this across Africa generally, because we have guests from all over the world, so to say. The implementation is very, very weak. One, policies are made by non-professionals. Take, for example, you have people in the House of Assembly or State House of Assembly who are making policies without having a wider consultation with industry practitioners. So when you come up with policies, those who want to bypass the system, they discover many loopholes. Then implementation, and if the punitive measure is not heavy, people can always want to get away with it. And we also have what we call human interference. So when there is a whole lot of human interference in policy implementation, you get people cutting corners and getting away with it. That being said, I also want to the info sector, the way they contribute to pollution. Generally, it's you see people that need calcium, open burning of bones with maybe some tires. You see we have many automobile shops scattered. How do they deal with waste oil? How is it disposed? Before you know it, it still gets back to it. So the informal sector also contributes a lot. Then maybe as you are going, maybe you still treat that. The transportation sector is also a huge place where environmental pollution is also coming from. I believe if the government is, if they are really enforcing what has to do with the formal sector, the multinationals, if they can, even if the informal sector cannot treat this waste. They should have a way of collecting the waste and treating it and safely disposing it instead of just turning a blind eye. Thank you.
Wow. Mr. Afolabi, thanks. Thanks for your very insightful contribution. I really agree with everything that you said. I'm very grateful for your contribution, and everything you have said is very, very valid. I also share those concerns with you. The truth is that this topic is a very complex topic, and you might not be able to, even at the end of this webinar, might not be able to like cover the whole scope because it's cut across so many sectors. It's an industry-wide, a lot of industry. You don't start breaking it down, a lot of industry that are contributing to pollution. So, and the main thing is just how organizations, how there should be like collaboration between the society, organizations, government, regulatory agencies, and all that. Let's just find a solution to that. And the simple way we can start from that is from the organization is by imbibing this chemical safety, some of the things that I've mentioned before. So because of time, let me just play this video of this Chalawa. Okay. Okay, there's a quiz. I think it's not a video, it's a quiz. Critical thinking, water pollution impact. What is the most likely chain of environmental consequences if untreated sanitary effluent is discharged into a freshwater stream? So like the likely chain, what's the chain reaction if untreated sanitary effluent like chromiums, iodine, VOCs? So you have A, B, C, D. So anyone? Anyone, please feel free to go ahead. Is it algal bloom to increase pH to coral bleaching? Okay, someone said B. Anyone else?
Okay, good afternoon. I go for B. Mr. Shegun.
Okay, your name? Okay,
Shegun.
Mr. Shegun. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
B.
B. Anyone else? Then you in the chat?
Yes.
Okay, so the answer is B. Obviously, reduced dissolved oxygen, fish kill, disrupted aquatic food chain. Now, let's go to the last case study for today, which is the Bhopal gas tragedy, a place in India. So on December 2nd to 3rd, 1984, there's a storage tank, Union Carbide India. It leaked 42 tons of melty isocyanates due to poor maintenance and failed safety system. And over 600K plus people have been reported to be exposed, over 15K plus deaths, 40 years lasting impact. Soil and water is still contaminated today. So let me just play a video. Please confirm if you can hear the video sound. Can you hear the video sound? Okay.
People in the affected areas are reporting serious breathlessness, various lung ailments, liver damage, kidney damage, muscle pain, continuous fever, headache, and I think there's not a single organ in the body which is not affected by the poison gas.
There's still the question of providing rehabilitation and health monitoring to children who are being born disabled due to the gas disaster and to parents who live in water contaminated area. And most importantly, 25,000 people dead, so many injured, not a single individual or corporation behind bars.
हम भी हार्ट के मरीज हैं और हमारी मिसेज भी कैंसर की मरीज होके मर गई और हमारी बेटी की भी दोनों आंखें चली गई हैं। हमको वही दर्द याद आता है अभी तक। अभी भी हमको वही मंजर दिखता है, जब गैस कांड की रात आती है तो हमको ऐसा लगता है कि हम मर ही जाते तो बेहतर था, जीने से कोई फायदा नहीं।
Because of time, I just need one person to just like what we did with the previous video, just analyze, give an overview, and what you think would have been done to prevent this accident. Just one person, any volunteer? Anyone? The floor is open. MIC, and it was very devastating. And I think the annoying thing that really annoys me was that nobody was willing to take responsibility. The organization was passing it to the government was passing it. So they were just playing with people's lives, and the casualty and the losses that happened as a result of this incident was very massive. And even till today, they are still suffering the impact of that. I think it was this year or last year that the remaining solid waste from this incident that happened, they evacuated. So we are still having polluted water. We are still having people born with congenital defects and all that as a result of that pollution. So this is another question. According to UNEP report on Ogoniland, I want to see if people are following. This statistics was in the previous slide during the Ogoni. So they say, according to UNEP report on Ogoniland, benzene levels in groundwater were found to be, is it within WHO safety limits, 10x above WHO limits, 50x above, 900 times above? Anyone? Anyone? Like somebody is on mute. Anyone wants to answer this question, or you can write it in the chat. Okay. Okay. DDG. Okay, that's the correct answer. Over 900 above. Where's everybody's? Let me mute that person is unmute. So the correct answer is. Now, what employers and workers need to know? What are the things that employers and workers need to know? My first thing is obviously laws and regulation. There is something we call the ILO, International Labour Organization Convention. They are basically conventions that are designed to treat labor rights and safety at work. So there are different conventions that are held. We have C155, Operational Health and Safety. We have C167, Construction in Health and Safety. So a lot of hygiene. So you can go online. For those of us that have done a NEBOSH, I think we are very familiar with ILO's convention. So for chemicals, there is ILO 6170 that is the world first comprehensive framework. And these are some of the requirements that it requires to identify as adult chemicals, assess exposure risks, provide clear labeling, ensure workers have access to. So even if by law, Nigeria has not ratified 6170, but it's still a principle and global best practices that most organizations follow in Nigeria. Then we have the GHS system. GHS was developed by the UN. So it's the adopted general way of classifying chemicals. So there's a universal language, visual recognition, and officially Nigeria adopted it in 2015 under the FNEV. This is an example. So there are a lot of pictograms. So if you see something like this, you know it's explosive and it's used worldwide. You know that this is representing something explosive. This is representing something flammable, oxidizing, toxic, environmental hazard. So this globally harmonized system developed by the UN. So another is quickly, which of the following statements about GHS labeling is incorrect? A, B, C, D. Which of the following statement about, just put it on the chat. Quickly. Which of the following about GHS labeling is incorrect? I'm seeing D. But which of these?
It is D.
No. Okay, because of time, the answer is C. The color and shape of pictograms vary by manufacturer. It's a universal worldwide, so it's the same for all manufacturers. So the answer is D. It doesn't change. So the answer is C. C. We also have REACH. This is a recent like a European regulation that requires most companies to register with them. They assess chemicals, they give special authorizations, especially for those that are importing chemicals. So you know most of the multinationals here in Nigeria that work with chemicals, they don't manufacture that chemical here. They import it from all these chemical giants abroad. So they will sometimes they need to get authorization or like permit from this if you are importing from European countries. So Nigeria Manufacturing and Chemicals Committee and Tester must comply with which to access the creative EU market. So we have Nigeria regulatory framework. One very important one is NESRA, National Environmental Regulatory Agency, the FNEV, Federal Ministry of Environment. So if you are doing a project, before you do a project, you must do your EIA, you will do your PIA, you must do your EIA, your EMP, waste management, and all that. NAFDAC also too, for food, drug, cosmetic. You have SON. SON is more about design, labeling, packaging, usage. Nigeria Chemical Management Policy. You also have the Factories Act, which is like the overbearing HSE law that we have in Nigeria. So you can also do some research. You also see some other applicable Nigeria regulatory framework that we have in terms of chemical safety. So industry best practices and next steps. So we have API standards for oil and gas sector. We have what we call IFC, Environmental and Health Safety Guidelines. So this IFC is a document or is like a manual. It's created by the World Bank. I remember the project I worked on, that project I worked on as the environmental and social consultant, because it was a World Bank sponsored project. Any project that World Bank is sponsoring must follow this IFC guidelines, and they have several clauses or standards that you must follow, and you must abide by that. So you will sign a contract, you must abide by that if they are going to give you that loan for whatever project. And you have your ISO 45001, your 14001 project management system. You have the responsible care. This one is more of the new initiative that is just coming up from chemical manufacturing. So what you should do as an employee, always request safety data sheet for all chemicals you handle. Know the GHS pictograms to know what you are dealing with. If you see any unsafe chemical handling, report to your supervisors, and always involve in training. Ensure you participate in training, because remember that chemical safety is everyone's responsibility, not a sole responsibility of anybody. Knowing the regulations first is your first line of defense against workplace hazard. So another quick one, under Nigerian law, what document is mandatory before an industrial facility is allowed to begin operations involving hazardous chemicals? You have A, B, C, D. So just put it on the chart. What do you think it is? Before a facility can start operations involving hazardous chemical, what okay.
Environmental impact assessment.
Oh, that's correct. So as you can see, people are putting C. All right. So chemical management is a shared responsibility. So first, you have the government role. The government is very important. Just like so many people have commented here and added, the government is very, very important, because if they can't turn a blind eye, laws and regulation, just like what Mr. Afolabi said before, that even the lawmakers, they are not really, there's no consultation and this thing. Implementation of these international conventions, incentives, all this, the government play a particular and a very significant role. Industry, that's the organizations too. They need to inculcate chemical safety into their activities. Chemical control program, treating and monitoring, risk and compliance. Everything I've mentioned today, they are the main people that needs to be involved. The workers, because those are the ones that are at risk. They're the ones that are in very close contact with, the chemicals and at exposure. So they need to follow safety protocol, SOPs, procedures, attend training, use and maintain the right PPE, report and respond to any unsafe act or anything they see. Then the society, regulatory agencies, that's also part of the government. They have their own responsibilities. In Nigeria, for example, we have NESTRA, Federal Ministry of Environment, NAFDAC, just like I mentioned before. So they have to be audit, routine inspection. It's not just a case of they go to a place and they just turn a blind eye because of maybe something have been exchanged or there have been some transaction. They need to be hard on to make sure that all the industries are really adhering to the regulation, the rules. They are doing their monitoring, doing audits, inspections, things they are supposed to do to manage their emissions and their wastes. Then the public at large, community advocacy, there should be more interaction, community engagement. People should be able to voice out their concerns. Vigilance monitoring. If you see a place that they are doing oil bunkering, or you see a place they are doing illegal mining or something, you should seek up, report to the right places, stakeholder participation. As part of AIA, they usually do consultation engagement where they speak with the community. You should participate in all those kind of things so that you know that, okay, what project are they bringing to our place? What are the possible impacts? And what are the possible things that will put in place to address these impacts? So they should also be part of that. So in conclusion, creating a sustainable future, it involves not just like everybody's a shared responsibility. Government regulations have to be in place. Public engagement has to be there. You need to advocate and demand. There must be accountability. and support responsible practices. Industry compliance, there are a lot of regulations, both internationally and national, and should implement systems in place that will prevent pollution and protect workers. Workers, safety actions. Workers should follow procedure, reporting potential hazard, involve themselves in training, and anything they see, they should speak up. Then, obviously, regulatory enforcement. Pollution prevention is a shared responsibility that creates a cleaner and safer and more sustainable future for all. And I feel, at least with this webinar, we have understood industrial pollution, how it started, the history, how chemical safety can help it, and how we can inculcate this, and the role every party has to play. So I feel everybody has learned a lot from this, and with what we have learned today, we can take it forward to our respective organizations, businesses, industries, and we can create a lasting impact on our society and our country at large. So at this point, I've come to the end of this session. I thank you all for really having me. So any questions? Please, if you have any questions, this is the time to ask questions.
Okay, thank you, Ronnie. Thank you for your amazing presentation. Firstly, I would like to just say this. I know it's also going to be on everybody's mind. Oh, we have someone's hands raised. Mr. Ayobami, can you please speak up, please? Feel free to speak, please.
Mr. Ayobami Tijani, your hands are raised up. Please go ahead.
I think you signed in using Ayobami Tijani's log link.
I think it's an error.
Okay.
Or is there any question?
Okay, so I think I have a question. I don't know if every other person has a question, but I have a question. I will try to make it quick. So throughout the course of this webinar, we spoke about the effects of this chemical to the environment, spoke about the control measures, we talked about so many, but we did not really focus on the communities. You did not. So my question to you is, because I think I wrote it down, my question to you is, what role can this local community play in reporting and preventing these incidents? So I don't know, can you just give us a quick run through on that?
Okay, so if you check, even from this slide you are seeing, you can see public engagement. And one of the things it says, advocating for accountability. Yes, it is that there's little, in terms of like practicality or technicality, there's little the public can do, the society, even if they are affected, there's little they can do. But what they can do is that they can demand for accountability, they can speak up, they can make their voices to be heard without necessarily doing it violently. They can report to agencies. There are agencies that have hotlines that you can report, and they can demand. So they are not the one that is going to put all these controls in place. But if they are being affected by something, it's their right for them to speak up. And that's why, as if you are doing any project, there's EIA, and part of the EIA process, part of the penalty of EIA is community engagement. There have to be a workshop that will be done that will involve all the community, the township, people that will come there, and they'll let them know, okay, we are building this thing. And you notice if they are doing any project, they won't have to do something that will benefit the community. I remember the project I did at Ajah side, they did road for them. The other project I worked at, they did transformer for everywhere that was there. Like they try to, you'll see some people that will go to a place that will say, okay, 50% or 80% of the labor force or the materials they're going to use in that project is going to be from the local community. So it's during the community engagement that you're going to do all that. And it's okay, this is the impact that this project is going to have, and this is how we're going to address it. And so that community engagement, I think that's where the community, you understand, and the society, that's where they can influence and they have their own.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ronnie. So thank you for your presentation once again.
Mr. Falabi.
Mr. Falabi, feel free to speak, sir.
Okay, I just want to contribute to what you just raised now. if there are no structures in place that are effective, the community, the best way for them to go about this is just to maybe a public outcry, maybe they call for a media briefing or something. Because in policies for government inviting maybe international companies or whatsoever, this community engagement, the role the local community plays is often just in white and black, but not really implemented. So most times the communities are left, the media, and I don't know what's applicable elsewhere. Sometimes the media is even suppressed to voice the concerns of the community. So I think it's always best to start from the scratch, where issues that are any deviation, the community members also should be knowledgeable enough and should put the interest of the community at heart. The damage we have in the Niger Delta today is a function of selfish individuals who pride themselves as community leaders. NDDC was set up to actually counter all these issues, but in reality, they have actually failed in terms of giving social amenities back to the people. When you have community leaders signing off projects that never was completed, and they just cash out. So if systems are not in place to checkmate environmental negative impact, and systems put in place for the community to hear their voice, and punitive measures that are very bold also set up from the word go, it will be very, very difficult. The community will be at the receiving end. And in reality, you don't plan for people, you plan with them. So if you are doing a project in a community exploration or whatsoever, the community members are a huge stakeholders in whatever you want to do. Thank you.
This October, a critical conversation ignites.
All right, thank you, Mr. Afolabi, for this session. If there are no questions, I'll hand over to Mr. Olaolu and he will carry on. So thank you so much for having me.
Okay, thank you so much, Ronnie. Thank you, Mr. Fola, for your contribution. Once again, I would like to thank everybody that took their time to join this. So before we leave, I'll be introducing the team member. She's in the marketing department of Chevron Consulting Limited. So my name is Rebecca. Rebecca, please, would you like to feel free to speak, please?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for your time and participation in today's live webinar show. As you all know, we are Chevron Group, and we are leading and trusted providers of QHSSA trainings and consultancy services. So our training spans across all sectors. So irrespective of the sector where you are, we have a training and service that can actually meet your need. And don't forget, we are key to ensuring workplace safety, operational efficiency, and compliance through all sectors. So our list of services includes the process safety management, floor marking, environmental sustainability, environmental impact assessment, environmental audit, ISO certification, QHSSE documentation, and we also have trainings as well from different awarding bodies, the likes of the IOSH Level 6 Diploma, the IOSH Managing Safely, IOSH Leading Safely, IOSH Working Safely. We also have our OTHM Level Level 6 Diploma in Occupational Health and Safety. We have our IOSH Level 3 Diploma in Occupational Health and Safety. We also have our Process Safety Training. We have our EIA, which is the Environmental Impact Assessment Training. We also have a training for chemical safety as well, chemical safety and manual handling. And after this webinar, we are going to send you a follow-up mail attaching our training calendar and our list of courses, so you can review it at your free time. And if you have any question, you can reach out to us. So don't forget to follow us on our social media pages. The link to the social media, the different social media pages will be pasted on the group chat. And also we have our website at www.skevrongroup.com. Please follow us on our website, and we hope to do business with you. Thank you so much for your time, your participation, and we hope to have you more in our upcoming webinars. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. So thank you all. As I said earlier, we are very grateful for the time we spent with you all being here for these 2 hours we have spent so far. And I'm sure this lesson has been so insightful, and we have all gained 1 or 2. We spoke a whole lot about chemical safety. We spoke a whole lot about oil spills and all, and we already understand the impact it's having on our environment. So you can assure us, Rebecca has said to you, we also do chemical safety courses. Please feel free to register and reach out to us via our email info@kevrongroup.com. We are always going to be ready to respond anytime in the day. Thank you very much. Let's do have a good and safe work day. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys. We are grateful. Thanks for having us as well.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Before we all leave, I think
Thank you. Much appreciations.
Yes. Yeah, before we all leave, I think we would like to have like a group call. So we want everyone to please turn on their camera just for us to have like a screenshot of those that participated in this in this webinar. So please, let's all turn off the camera for us to see our faces, please. Yes, we'll be having a screenshot very soon. Yeah. Okay, almost there.
Austin, can you find it? Can you?
Almost there, please. We need more people to please turn on your cameras. Yes, yes. Miss Hope, I can see you.
Ron is mine.
Mr. Victor, I can see you as well.
Rooney, can you see mine?
Can you see me?
Yeah.
Rooney,
yes,
can you see me?
Yeah. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can.
You can't see from point.
I can see Mr. People now. Mr. Isaac,
Oh, you can see me, Mr. Kingsley.
Yeah.
You can see me.
The glasses, Mr. Isaac. Thank you. Thank you. That's top notch, Mr. Isaac. Now I can see Mr. Isaac clearly now. Mr. Easy. Okay, please. We'll be taking the screenshots now. Thank you all for participating once again. Have we done that, please? Okay, they said 1 minute, they're almost done with that. So before we end this call, I'm just going to keep saying thank you all for participating. Hope to see you on our next webinar, and I'm assuring you that the next webinar is going to be taken by someone very, very special. I'm not going to mention the name now, but just know that the next webinar will be hosting as a group is going to be taken by someone very, very special. And I'm certain you will not want to miss that particular webinar, because I will be bringing somebody to actually represent. And when I say represent, I mean represent.
At least certificate of attendance.
Yes, thank you. So please remember to follow us on our social medias handle Kevron Group. Thank you very much once again. Let's have a good and safe day.
You can ask.
For joining.
Please, I have a question.
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm listening, Mr. Austin.
I think I don't know. I think we'll get a certificate of attendance, right?
Yes, certainly. It will be sent to those that registered, and that's why during the call we requested that those that joined using a different link, send in their email for it to be sent to them. So certainly you'll actually be getting the e-certificates for registering.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for joining once again. Let's have a good and safe work day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Baba.
Thank you
very
much.
No one go. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Hello.
This phone has come. Yes, Telegram. Telegram.
They don't snap. They don't make the picture already.
Which one?
You don't come out. Okay.
I see your this thing that you Let me. I don't know if that is. No. Jesus. Let me check.